Hello everybody, welcome to Inverts and Herps. I am Eric, and in this video I'm doing a very simple and basic introduction to the world of parasitism. And the reason why I say very simple and very basic is I'm just going to go over a couple terms and just a couple examples, because this is a topic that can get pretty complicated pretty fast. So to start the very beginning, what is parasitism? Parasitism, in the simplest term, is a relationship between organisms where one organism, the parasite, benefits itself to the expense of another organism, the host. So the parasite and the host have a relationship where everything benefits the parasite but nothing benefits the host. So the host suffers, either suffers from quality of life, sickness, disease, or even death. So that's kind of like parasitism in a nutshell. Now there are various methods of parasitism and like how the parasites attack their host or that type of stuff, or get into a host, I should say. I'm just going to quickly go over some of those. One is parasitic castration. So basically what that is the parasite affects the host's ability to reproduce. So when the host gets attacked by the parasites either decrease the host's ability to reproduce or takes away their ability to reproduce entirely. A quick example of this is some species of barnacles that specialize in some crab species. The barnacles will attach themselves to the crabs, and the crabs are not able to reproduce. They treat the barnacles that are attached to their reproductive organs as essentially their aids or offspring, whatever, and that's how the barnacles spread. Another one is parasites that are directly transmitted. What this means is they don't need to be transmitted by another party or a different animal. They attack you directly or feed on you directly. A couple examples for this type of parasite is lice and mites, where they're by themselves, they're directly on you, they feed on you. That's pretty simple. Trophically transmitted is the next one. That's where the parasite is eaten by the host. So this pretty much a quick example of this one. They're like roundworms, tapeworms, and stuff, where you eat something, the parasite's in the food, you swallow the parasite, and then the parasite grows inside you. That's how the parasite moves from host to host and helps it reproduce and spread. Next one are vector transmitted parasites. And these are the ones that actually do rely on another organism for them to help reproduce and move from host to host. These parasites are like the diseases and stuff that are transmitted by vectors such as lice, ticks, mosquitoes, and that type of stuff. So the vector transmitted parasites rely on those arthropods and all that stuff to help them move from host to host. The next one are parasitoids. And parasitoids accompany are insects. And parasitoids will kill their host once like the larva and everything like matures to pupate or hatch into adult. Then the host will die. And these ones include wasps and some flies, and actually have a couple examples of parasitoids that I will go through in a moment here. Next we have micropredation. What this is the parasites attack more than one host. These parasites feed on blood, mostly, and these parasites can also act as vectors. Examples of this one are leeches, mosquitoes, but also organisms such as lampreys and even vampire bats. So especially like the invertebrate organisms that are like micropredator parasites carry the vector transmitted parasites. So this whole thing can get very complicated. I'm just trying to keep it in a more as simplest terms as possible for like just a simple introduction to this subject. Alright, so I just went through the more broad type stuff concerning parasites. I'm going to get a tiny bit more specific here. So I have a couple examples of like more maybe my methods. Maybe I shouldn't say methods, but within those various categories, I should say, those various categories that I just went over of parasites. You have some of these examples within them. Hyperparasitism. This is really interesting and can also get complicated in of itself. So basically what hyperparasitism is when a parasite feeds on another parasite. And so let's basically say you have a caterpillar and it has a parasitic wasp on them, and that parasitic wasp, the larvae come out and they pupate, and you see the pupa on the outside of the caterpillar. A hyperparasite will attack that wasp, and the larva of that hyperparasite will feed on that larva or pupa of the parasitic wasp that was already there. And if that makes sense. So it's a parasite of a parasite. And that can even go further, where you can actually have a parasite of a parasite of a parasite, and even more above that, you can have a parasite of a parasite of a parasite of a parasite. There can be very, very complex relationships between parasites. Still fascinating. So you also have social parasites that they're parasites that target eusocial animals like ants, wasps, bees, termites, that type of stuff. A couple examples of these are bumblebees. Yes, there are parasitic species of bumblebees, which actually happen to have a couple species. That's where a female parasitic bumblebee will enter a nest of another species, kill the queen, then lay her own eggs in the nest of another species, and have the workers of the other species raise the brood of the parasitic species. Very, very cool. You also have ants that will parasitize other species of ants, which is really awesome. And believe it or not, there's even a butterfly species or two that are parasitic, which I find extremely, extremely fascinating. So basically, the butterfly itself does butterfly things, but the larva of the butterfly, of the sub-butterfly, it's a type of, like I said, a type of blue. I think it's the large blue in Europe. I think it's in Europe. But once the caterpillar hits a certain stage, it actually goes down into ant colonies, produces a hormone or something similar, and the ants think the caterpillar is one of their own, like grubs and larvae, ant larvae, and they take care of the larva, give it food and everything. And so the larva of the butterfly is being taken care of by these ants with nothing in return. So the butterfly is parasitizing on these ants, which is really, really cool. Another thing you have are brood parasitism, where the host species acts as parents to raise the young of the parasitic species. You see this in birds. And a couple of examples are the species of cowbirds and cuckoo birds, where they'll lay eggs in another bird species nest, and that bird species will raise that egg and that young as their own and feed them and all that stuff. So yes, birds can be parasitic as well. And then you also have kleptoparasitism, which is where the parasite steals the food from the host. Either the host gathers food and then the parasite just steals it when it brings it back, or the host has food like on itself and the parasite steals the food from the host as it has it, as it has the food. Yeah. There are some birds that do this, and then there's also bees such as cuckoo bees. who will lay their eggs in another bee's nest, and just the larvae will just steal their food. Alright, so that's the, I know it's a lot of information, and that's a lot of stuff I just went through. And I've been talking for a while. But I do have a couple examples here that actually I have pictures of from my photos and stuff. So I'm going to go through a couple examples of the pictures I have and just briefly explain what they do. Alright, first photo I have up here is a species of tachinid fly. Tachinid. This is Edagenia vetatris. And what these do, or this family as a whole, their larvae are either, the eggs are either like laid directly on the host or on a plant, and then the larvae find a host or something like that. But the larva will bury inside their host and grow inside their host, and will keep the host alive until it reaches a point where they like crawl out and pupate, and then ready to go to an adult. So it can be, and it is kind of gruesome. But that's just how the life cycle is. And as you can see, it's obviously a very beautiful fly. And so many flies in this family are really cool looking. I've always enjoyed them, despite how kind of gruesome their life cycle is, especially as their larva. That's a picture here. It's actually a bee that's taking a nap on a flower. But this is a species of cuckoo bee in the genus Tripiolis. And this genus of bees are parasites on other bees. And these bees, I actually parasitize mainly just a single genus of bees, which are all in the genus Melisodes, which are the longhorn bees. They might parasitize like other species. It's not really entirely positive for sure yet, but their primary host is are bees in the genus Melisodes. So they have a pretty specific genus and group of bees that they target themselves. And cuckoo bees themselves are just really, really, really cool looking and really fascinating. This next example are true monsters. Well, I don't want to say monsters. They're very intimidating looking, as you can see from this picture. And if you see them in person, you see the body itself is like large, and then they have that really long tail. And if you don't know what it is, it can be kind of jarring and be kind of scary to see, because you think that's like one really long stinger. But this is a giant ichneumon wasp in the genus Megarhysa, and these are in the family Ichneumonidae, which specialize in parasitism. Thousands and thousands of species of different wasps in this family. Only a couple, or only a few in this specific genus. But these are very large wasps, and they are harmless to humans. So if you do actually see one of these, they're really cool. You don't have to worry about them. You can even pick them up and all that stuff. They won't sting you. They're kind of scary looking, yeah, but completely harmless. And And members of this genus are actually parasitic on horntail wasp, horntail sawfly larva, which is another different group of type of wasp. And giant ichneumon wasps can actually sniff out horntail larvae inside logs, and they use that really long ovipositor that you see, and they can sneak and drill their way with the ovipositor into a log to lay their eggs on the larva. And that has something to do with like an odor that the larva emits when it's moving or after a horntail lays eggs and all that stuff. But that's really, really fascinating. They can land on a log, detect the odor, pinpoint where exactly that larva is in the log, and use their ovipositor, the really long tail, and wind its way into the log to pinpoint where the host is and lay its egg on the host. That's absolutely fascinating and really, really cool. This example might actually surprise you. This is a tarantula hawk wasp in the family Pompilidae, and this is a member in the genus Pepsis. So these are the big old tarantula hawk wasps. And it might surprise you, as it actually surprised me, that these are parasitic. The adults feed on nectar. You find them at flowers. That's where I always found them, at flowers, drinking the nectar. The larvae, as tarantula hawk name suggests, the larvae feed on tarantulas and other large spiders. So what happens is the adults that do feed on nectar and flowers and stuff, they will sting the host, a tarantula or other large type of spider. They'll sting the host, which will paralyze it. So the host is still alive. And then they'll bury the host in a burrow and lay a single egg on that host. And then that egg will hatch, and the larva of the wasp will feed on the tarantula or spider as it is paralyzed. And it'll feed on it while it's alive and grow up like that. And if you ask me, that's frankly kind of badass, gruesome, kind of sad, but also parasitic. And I find that absolutely fascinating. So, yeah. The adults themselves don't, but the larva. And this last example, been focusing on insects because that's the most examples I have in my photos. But I do have a photo here of a brown-headed blackbird. And not blackbird. I'm an idiot. Brown-headed cowbird. I don't know why I had blackbird down in my notes here. Brown-headed cowbird. These birds, as I did mention before in the example of cowbirds, are parasitic. Females do not build nests. They will go to other bird species, lay their eggs in the nest of that bird species and leave. And then that bird, the host bird, will incubate the egg and then raise the cowbird baby as its own. It'll feed it, have it grow up and everything. And this will come to the expense of either some or most of the chicks in the host bird nest. And which just can be kind of unfortunate. And believe it or not, brown-headed cowbirds' eggs have been found in more than 220 different bird species. So they use all sorts of hosts, which allows them to be quite advantageous in where they nest. So yeah, definitely a very talk-heavy video. This one, a lot of stuff. Hope I was able to get some of it across where you're able to understand it, and hopefully give you just a slight look into the world of parasitism and different parasites. And I tried my best to keep it as simple as possible, but as I said before, and if you actually do some more research into this type of stuff, you'll find out it can be it can be quite complicated, but still really, really cool. And just a life cycle of a lot of these parasites and that stuff and how they live and everything really is fascinating, especially in terms of the birds and some of the insects and all that type of stuff. So it's definitely something, if you're interested, definitely go down the rabbit hole. It's very interesting. I'm always learning new stuff about this, because some of the stuff that I talked about, I didn't know some of these were considered parasites, like the torrential hawk wasp. But it actually is considered a parasite. So, really fascinating. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I know I rambled on a lot for this video, but I hope you enjoyed. If you want to support, check out the Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description below. Mean the world to me to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And until the next video, appreciate what you have around you. Go outside, enjoy the outdoors, and make some observations. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.